Hi, I'm Francesca.
Hi, I'm Dave, and we're from A Little Learning.
A Little Learning is a social enterprise in creative learning, and we are an experienced Artsmark partner.
We support schools with our bespoke, needs-led projects where we weave together everything from coding to poetry, puppetry to dance, and everything in between.
Our programs are designed to develop in students their skills, their habits, their creative mindset in order to navigate a world that's ever-changing and technologically driven. So what can schools expect when working with A Little Learning?
We're all about creative learning, using technology where appropriate, student leadership, and teaching for creativity. We support a broad and balanced curriculum and exciting enrichment program. And we draw upon our pool of experienced educators from a range of disciplines and backgrounds.
We're passionate about progression. We focus on developing both pupils, but also teachers' skills, interests, and talents. Networks are very important to us. Where possible, we'll encourage further links with schools and organisations. And we are an Arts Awards Centre, so we're experienced in embedding it. Now, if you're a school on your Artsmark journey, you'll be looking at 8 different criteria. And the practical session that Dave is going to lead for you in a moment is part of a wider programme that we've developed, and we called it Digital Learning in Primary. And it does cover a range of criteria, that is CPD or curriculum design, partnerships, student engagement. But for the purposes of this session, we wanted to highlight for you range of offer. That is how schools develop and establish a wide-ranging offer in arts and culture. Now, what does that look like in practice?
As a school, you might evidence a broad range of offer by having well thought out, consistent activities within and actually beyond formal teaching. And it is that out of school activity that sometimes get missed when we're thinking about our action plan for Artsmark. But it's a very powerful, a very safe and a very impactful way to try a wider range of disciplines. It could be that you're providing opportunities to perform and also develop as audiences, and you can do that via live performances or live experiences. And for the children to create original pieces of work and then evaluate their own practice and the practice of others. And we want to see that in a range of media, in a range of art forms. Range of offer links beautifully with Arts Award. This is the set of qualifications for under 25s, and later on we will explore these links a little bit further. A school with in-depth evidence for range of offer will have a robust strategy that demonstrate progression routes. And we do that via continuous access to activities that actually challenge and stretch the children in terms of their knowledge, their skills, and their understanding.
Now, at any level, range of offer is a great vehicle to get children to experience different disciplines, but also to expose them in a cross-disciplinary way of working.
Okay, we're going to do our practical session now. Now, this is the Algo Art Project from A Little Learning. Usually we run this over 5 or 6 weeks. We're going to do it here in 5 or 6 minutes. It does assume some scratch and coding knowledge, but very small amount. And by following along, you should be able to make sense even if you've never used Scratch before. Of course, feel free to pause and then figure out what's going on your computer before you carry on. So this 5-minute section, you could extend to an hour or more. If you just pause, do a bit, carry on, pause, do a bit, carry on. Okay, let's jump in. We're going to do a teardown because I think in about 5 minutes, which is what I'm aiming for, this will be the most effective way for you to see what this project is all about. We're starting with the end in mind. So we've got this awesome patterny creation, which if we look carefully, we can see is made up of pentagons. And this is how this project works. We create these unique creations. In fact, let me show you very quickly some of the children's work here. So we can see the uniqueness and the variety of colours and textures and patterns that the children created. In one of the schools we ran this project, they thought, how can we display this amazing work from the children? So we came up with this way of a bit like a geodesic kind of dome thing, where the children's work was printed and laminated and then punched together to form these big hanging sculptures that we hang from the ceiling on like fishing line or something. That was a lovely way to display it. But you can see from there the variety and the uniqueness of the work. We're looking at this one piece, which you can see being drawn in front of you now. And that's all from this code. Now we're in Scratch, and Scratch has these kind of Lego blocks that stack up on top of each other and create programs, algorithms that run and can control these things down here called sprites. So this red dot is our sprite, and that, if you look really carefully, is what's drawing this pattern. This project itself brings in multiple disciplines. So we've got art, we've got pattern and shape and colour in particular is what we're looking at art-wise. We've got mathematics, particularly geometry. So a lot of angles and degrees and multiplication. Then, of course, we've got computing using the devices themselves. But within that, we've got coding. And within that in particular, what this project excels at helping children to understand is loops, which is a really fundamental tenet of coding itself. So let's look at our code quickly. I'm going to show you that we've got two chunks. This top chunk we call initialization. This is setup. Everything here happens before anything is drawn. And this is resetting. Initialization is like resetting everything. And down here we've got our main loop. And actually, if we look carefully, we've got a loop in a loop. So this C shape that says repeat is repeating whatever's inside it 10 times. Okay? Now what's inside it, if I separate these two here, is a smaller loop. And this loop is repeating this 5 times. Now we're drawing one straight line that's moving 80 steps. In Scratch, we measure not with centimeters or millimeters, but with steps. And then we're turning after each step. And we're doing that 5 times. And that's what's giving us, if we put a green flag on this, and we separate this one, and we come up and click our green flag, let's erase everything too. You should see we get a beautifully perfect pentagon. And so what we're doing actually is then repeating. Once we've figured out how to do that, we're repeating the pentagon. So if we put that there, let's erase all again. We've got the green flag, which we're clicking here to trigger our script. And then we've got a loop within a loop. Now at the moment, we're going to do 10 perfect pentagons, but all on top. However, if we were to turn after each one, then we start to get these interesting patterns. And by playing with geometry, so we're talking like a pentagon geometry here with a decagon arrangement. So let's go for hexagons. So we're going to turn 60 degrees after each straight line. And let's do a hexagon geometry as well. So let's see what we get here. And if you look carefully, this is such an interesting one. We start to get like a 3D cube optical illusion. Sometimes you might see a flower. Sometimes you might see cubes that go inwards. Sometimes you might see cubes that extend outwards. But that's basically what we're doing here. And we build it up over 5 or 6 weeks. And what's really interesting, I think, about this project, let me reconnect these, is that the children can tweak things. They can make changes to their code and instantly see the difference. If I just do a bit of tweaking here. So I've got multiple colors here. Let's try thinner lines. So this should be, there we go. Now, what if I said, instead of changing the color after each of these, let's make each corner a different color too. So even within, I've got different patterns here. Now, I'm keeping it really too sensible because the children are going to do things like repeat 45 and then perhaps turn, let's see, 78 degrees. And let's see what we get now. And this is where we get this lovely place between experimentation and understanding what's happening. So we've got hexagons, but we're doing 45 of them and we're turning 178 degrees. Let's try something else. Let's try 121 degrees. Okay, and this is quite interesting. Starting to get like a skull type of thing happening. And so what we find is there's just limitless, wow, that's cool. I really like that one. This is full of surprises. The children would generate things they didn't think they were capable of, but through experimentation and through understanding the basic structure of the scripts, each child or each pair, depending on how they work, will come up with something really unique and really interesting. Well, I hope you enjoyed that short whistle-stop tour of the Algo Art Project. As I mentioned earlier in the practical session, we'd usually run that over 5 weeks. So in a 5 minutes chunk, you got a real condensed version. I'd like, though, to spend a couple of minutes just talking about extension activities and how you can increase the complexity and the challenge for your more able or advanced learners. There's 2 or 3 things I'd really like to focus on. One would be the use of variables. So this is where we can use, you can think of it like a box or like a placeholder. So throughout the code, throughout the script, we'd insert these variables that all basically reference back to one controller. So if we drop these variables around our script, from one place, we can change that number to whatever we want it to be. So we could then control size and color at the same time. We can also, with the use of loops, control things then over time. So things could be drawn for a few seconds in one color and then changed to another one, or drawn at a particular size and then drawn at another. The other thing to bring in would be the random element. So for example, a sprite could move around the screen and scripts could either be triggered manually from the keyboard with the different key presses, or just as part of the script, they could randomly trigger new shapes to be drawn, but at random points on the screen. And this is super easy to do in Scratch and can really open up the children's artwork from being centrally based to the whole canvas, the whole stage, becoming a canvas. So those 2 things, I think, variables and bringing in randomness would be 2 things that I'd look at first to build upon what the children have been doing there.
So the practical session was pitched at upper Key Stage 2, but it can work equally well with Key Stage 3 or lower Key Stage 2. And obviously another way of enriching this experience and linking it well with your Artsmark would be to embed Arts Award. And you can do that at Discover level, Explore, or even Bronze if you're working with Key Stage 3. We will explain a little bit about Discover because that would probably be the most accessible level for most of you. So at Discover level, you're looking at 3 parts. Part A is all about understanding the broadness of the art and where creative code kind of fits within that industry. And then for their children to take part in the activity. So by doing the project, we've covered part A. And then we've got part B.
And in part B, it's all about introducing the children to artists, people actually using the skills that they've been having a go at doing. So you're looking for somebody involved in the games industry, perhaps, or a coder who also mixes art. We often use somebody called Zach Lieberman, who's an American man who has got some really beautiful quotes that you can interweave with the work that you're using around code being like poetry. And he's a really inspiring character. He's also developed his own framework called Open Frameworks, which is like its own programming language specifically designed for creative code. So he's definitely an interesting guy to worth looking for.
And then we've got part C, which is about sharing. And this is sharing their opinions and their learning through the project and through their research on artists and their work. And kind of that completes and makes their experience much richer. It also gives them a voice and an understanding of the arts in a broader sense. So that would fit really well within your Artsmark journey. And obviously Creative Code is then a brilliant way of broadening your range of offer. I think that's it from us. We hope you have a meaningful and impactful Artsmark journey. Bye for now.
Bye.